Hi, this is Dustin with Dustin's Dollars. Today I'm going to be talking about Knightscope, ticker KSCP. Just a couple updates in the past month or so, and some evidence as to why I think we might see roughly, put a number on it, roughly 13% revenue growth in Q3. The Q3 numbers are not out yet. This is just my sort of speculation. Before I begin, let me remind you that I am not a financial advisor or a financial professional of any sort. All opinions that I express in this video are mine and do not represent those of any company or any other individual. I currently hold a long position in Knightscope, so this video should be for your entertainment purposes only. Because I could be wrong about everything I say in this video, you need to do your own research before making any investment decisions. So, first things, delivering on the first point that I was talking about, the potential revenue growth that we could see. This is once again based off of this robot numbering that we've seen and that I speculate is sort of a serial number, if you will, that is actually going up for each new robot that they produce. And this was a recent there's a recent tweet about they were deploying a new robot. I think this one was going to New York, it said. But anyways, you pay attention and look at the numbering. This one is numbered at 129. And I think before this, we've only seen one other robot that was numbered in the triple digits. And we do know that in May, I believe I looked and it was May 27th. Actually, I have the tab open here. May 27th, we saw this particular robot saying that it was deployed in the Bay Area, numbered 99. And so if they are now deploying, and there's a little bit of difference here between it's shipping out from Knightscope headquarters versus it's actually in the field and being deployed as this one was. But I think they're probably pretty close. So the calculus I'm doing here is I'm looking at, well, we went, up 30 in this numbering. If this actually represents 30 robots, that's just my speculation here. Maybe I could be totally wrong, but I think we've seen it correlate roughly with the number of deployments that have happened and some of the statements that have been released by the company. So if you and I also did the math here, and I think I had it earlier. It's 131 days from this point in time to when this particular tweet went out with them deploying this robot. And so if that was 30 robots, actually let's do this. If that was 131 days to deploy roughly 30 robots, that's a new robot deployed every 4 days. Let's assume that I'm, missing a bit, right? Some of the numbering doesn't actually work out. Some of them are used for other purposes, or some of the robots just haven't yet been deployed, or we have some cancellations, that do account for some attrition. And so if we assume this, boils down to what I believe is a fairly conservative, based off of this model and these assumptions, at least a fairly conservative number of one new robot deployed per week, if that happened all the way through Q3. I think they have roughly 100 robots deployed. That would be, a 13% increase, and that we'd see in Q3 divide, over Q2. And again, there's a couple other factors that can make that sort of not quite line up, right? The timing of the deployments matters since they recognize revenue once the robots have been deployed and are working, right? So if those robots got deployed all in the last month of the quarter, it wouldn't show up as quite as much revenue as if they all got deployed, in the first month of the quarter. But that's something we should look at, and that's kind of where I'm setting my expectations for the quarter. So that will be interesting to see. I mean, if we do see that 13% quarter over quarter growth or anywhere in that vicinity, I think will be a pretty clear story that breaks the narrative from the beginning of the year that the company has been flatlined for a while, right? If we see that growth continue, that will show that it's been a trend for I think a year at this point where we'll have seen quarter over quarter positive growth, and so that would be great for the company. Speaking of growth for the company, they also are, I believe, working to get through that backlog, right? We do see some of these tweets about robots that have been built and are shipping out and being deployed. Recently, there was also a position posted. It's actually no longer posted on their careers page. It's gone now, but it was posted near the end of September. And so I'm glad that I caught this when I noticed. And I kept the link to the actual job posting, even though it's not available on the just the general careers page for a contract, right? A temporary production technician, right? And why would they need a temporary production technician? Well, they've got lots of materials to build robots, right? They finally fixed some of their or been able to overcome some of their supply chain challenges, and now they actually need to assemble those things and get them ready to, ship out. And they need somebody for at least a little bit to actually burn through some of that backlog, right? And I think I should have had it pulled up here, but I think they have a backlog of roughly 30 robots or so that as they reported. I think that was as of sometime in August when they actually released their Q2 numbers. And so this actually gives me sort of, I think, a positive indicator that they are actually at the point where they are now they're constrained on actually having the people to put together the robots, right, and to get them out and clear through that backlog. And so we could actually see a quite a jump up in Q3 and maybe Q4 depending on the timing. I actually guess this would be more Q4, right? Because this job was posted in September, and so this person would probably come on and be able to actually contribute to robots that get deployed in Q4. So, we clearly won't see the this until Q4 results come out, which will be in, I don't know, probably March of next year. So we've got quite a bit before we're going to see this definitively, in the filings for the company. But I think this is once again the things that I'm looking at to try to see where the company's heading, and this looks positive to me. Another smaller note here, they do continue to hire, right? They haven't pulled all of these, and so I think that bodes well for the company, right? That they seem like they must be doing fairly, at least doing okay with their cash positions and their liquidity, because, when they did have some issues in years past, right? I think in 2018 or so, we did see the company, stop hiring or at least drastically cut their hiring down. And I think they laid off some folks if you sort of read between the lines. And another thing just to note, if you saw this last week, they announced, I think this was last week or maybe the week before, they announced that they now have a partnership. And it didn't actually say it was a sale. Just as a side note, it did not say that this one was a sale. And usually they explicitly state that. So it's possible that this was an unpaid partnership, which I don't think we've seen too many of those. I'm not sure that I've seen any of those. And it could just be that the wording was softened here to not state that up front. But anyways, I think this is interesting. They are now trying with a convention center in where was this at? In Orlando, in Florida. That's what I thought. I think this is interesting because this has been something that's been talked about. I've heard the question in a couple of different times when the company had sort of a question and answer session with investors and with a couple other folks. Folks have asked about this. Oh, well, I could have if we had a convention, we had a big gathering of people, we could get some of the robots to deploy them. And the company has always given the answer that no, that's not really the business that they're in. And personally, I totally understand that there's a big security need at events like that, but I think the company, in my limited understanding and experience here, it did seem like the company was making the right move to not really target this as a use case right now, because building a robot, paying for the robot, that's a lot of capital up front. And if this is a sort of a one-off need to actually have security for a convention, that's not really a good fit. Now, on the flip side, I think if the robots could do something for the to help out with a convention, that's a very interesting capability that they would have. And I do think that maybe something like a convention center could benefit from this much more than maybe some other folks. If they if they regularly have conventions, this could be more of a not every day but frequent enough occurrence to actually justify the the cost and the economics of using the robots. So anyways, the overall point is this is sort of a kind of a new use case for them. I think it's different than materially different than what they've done in a lot of other all of the other use cases, their other clients that they've had. And so I think it will be interesting, a year from now, 2 years from now, if anything ever comes of this, to see what happens with the convention center and conventions as a whole, because it is clearly there's a lot of need for security there. I just don't know if the Knightscope is actually a good answer to solve those needs, but we'll see. I'm interested in that. So, all right, that was what I had to go through today. Let's see, anything on the chat? Nope, nothing on the chat today. So then I will let you all go. Just FYI, I guess if you are still hanging around, I do these videos when I can, in the evenings in the Eastern US time, 9, 10, 11 p.m., somewhere in that vicinity. So if you are ever interested to, stick around, hop on the chat and, talk to me, feel free to do so. I would love to chat with you. Otherwise, talking in the comments below. I'm a little behind on responding to people at the current moment, but I do try to respond to all the comments that I get because, you have such interesting things to say all the time. So anyways, thank you very much